Good morning. I just woke up this morning and I've been pondering about some issues. And it led me to say a few words about it. A lot of times when you ask Africans what is the problem of Africa, it seems like we always point to leaders, that the leaders are the problem of Africa. And we also say the mindset has to change. So, with that, I would make a brief comment about those two things. Why do a lot of people think that leaders are the problem, and then why do people think we need to change the mindset? And what is the problem with the mindset? And so I'll make brief comments about that, but from now on, I'm gonna try to address those two things in depth. First, the issue of leadership. If we look back to either whether it's people like to make reference with Mahatma Gandhi of India when he started his revolutionary movement, you may call it. He was in his late 20s into his early 30s. If you look at Nelson Mandela, he was in his early 20s into his late 20s. If you look at Patrice Lumumba of Congo, he was in his early 30s. If you look at Selassie of Ethiopia, the only country in Africa that was never colonized, the Italians tried and failed. He was in his early 30s. He was the emperor of Ethiopia. If you look at Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, he was in his early 30s. If you look at former Nigerian leaders, they were in their early 30s, whether it's Yakubu Gawan or, or Obasanjo even, or Murtala Muhammad, or most of those guys on Awolowo and Namdi Azikwe and all those people, they were in their early 30s. So, why am I telling you this? I believe that our young people have become accustomed to complaining. And if you look at it historically, people who complain change nothing. People who always complain always point fingers to others who are doing something in the ways they know how. But one thing that I know for a fact is that people who complain hardly change anything. And the second part of it is those leaders, early African leaders, were willing to die to liberate their own people. Today, most African youth are unwilling to be hungry to elect the right leaders. You can simply buy a vote with nickels and dime, pennies on, people, the youth of these days are willing to sell their vote just for a plate of lunch. So, and then they complain that they are not given opportunity to participate in a democratic process or empowerment schemes. Well, those leaders, early African leaders, didn't ask to be given a chance. They demanded it. And they were willing to give their life for it. Today, no youth is willing to be hungry to elect a right leader. You can see across Africa, instead of politics of ideas, it has become politics of hand to mouth. This is the problem with the youth. All they think about is their mouth, their stomach. They are unwilling to sacrifice to ensure good governance and good transparency. And then they complain about those who are willing to do such. The problem of Africa is not leadership. It's not bad leadership. It is that the leaders of Africa are leaders that the Africans deserve. Those are the leaders that Africa deserves. If you want to change leadership, then you must change your attitude towards the leadership. When Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi didn't like the leadership, they changed their attitude towards leadership. Now, we see African youth are unwilling to change their attitude towards the leadership. And then they complain about those offering their services to do what they can to make things the way they know how. So that's the second part of it. The third one, when it comes to the issue of leadership, is that everybody has a great idea. When it comes to sharing them, everybody has a great idea. Everybody likes to talk about their idea. But when it comes time to sacrifice for those very same ideas that everybody talks about, then nobody is willing to sacrifice for them. And they keep giving, people start giving you excuses that, oh, they've been hurt before, people have used and abused them, or people have taken advantage of them. You know, that is the price of doing the right thing. We don't do the right things because others are doing it. We do the right things because it is right to do it. And we try continuously making sacrifices until we find those right ways to do it and the right people to do them with. We cannot give up just simply because someone take a penny or a nickel from us. Then we say, okay, that's it. I give up. I won't do anything anymore. That's not the way to do things. You cannot advance democracy or good governance or invest in anything or participate in anything without willing to sacrifice until it's done. The issue of our time when it comes to leadership is that we talk about it and nobody is willing to walk the talk. And this is the problem. So when we say we like to do something, we should be willing to sacrifice for the very thing we want to do. We just don't offer ideas, and then when it's time to sacrifice for it, then we don't. This is part of the problem. You see the youth, all they do is complain, whine and nag. Nobody is giving them an opportunity. Nobody is offering them handouts. Who is supposed to offer who handouts? It's not what the government could do for you. It's what you can do for the government. It's not what the people could do for you. It's what you could do for the people. You don't sit there and complain that people are supposed to do something for you. What can you offer the people? What ideas and sacrifice can you make to make someone's life better? This is what it's about. Not about you. If you are here to occupy space, then by all means stop complaining. Sit there and occupy space. But don't occupy space and whine and bitch that nobody is giving you an opportunity to do what you're supposed to do. Everybody, all of us have been created with the same playing field. Others are making it. Why can't you make it? Is it someone's fault that you cannot make it? Is it someone's fault that you are suffering the way you are suffering? Is it someone's responsibility to stop your suffering? When you are selling your vote for nickel on the dime? You have to ask of yourself a better, of something more better than you are demanding of yourself. You cannot ask for someone to open the doors of opportunities for you. You have to open the doors for yourself. That is what I want to say about leadership for now. The second is when we look at the entirety of Africa. We all know the history of Africa. And one of the lessons, if any, we should learn when we look at the entire continent Africa is that we need to learn that what you do to others would come back to you. When you do evil, evil will come to you. When you are there planning the worst of humankind to another human being, that will come to you. Before the inception of the so-called colonization, Africans was living in peace. We didn't have such things as prisons. We didn't have things as violence and chaotic environments. The colonial masters and their counterparts brought this to us. When there was a dispute within community, whether it's a land dispute or animal dispute or farm dispute or crop dispute or market dispute, it was settled among leaders. Nobody was jailed or imprisoned. Does that mean there were no bad people? Absolutely not. There were bad people. That is why the bad ones were castrated out of society. But we didn't have such things as, death squad, capital punishment, people being executed. We didn't have such. The colonial masters brought this to us. They taught us violence. They taught us hate. Now we have embraced hate through the so-called colonization and Christian and Islamic brainwash. The Arabs enslaved Africans. The Westerners brought Christianity, enslaved Africans. It seems like sometimes we forget this history, and then we are repeating it with other colonial demagogues like the Chinese. It is upsetting and sad that we have so much educated people that have failed to educate others. And everybody is running around chanting all kinds of nonsense. We have to be responsible enough to say enough is enough. What does that mean? It means, one, we must sacrifice for whatever we are going to do. We must look our brothers and sisters straight dead in the eye and say, I am my brothers and my sisters' keeper. It doesn't matter where you're from. As long as you're an African, I am with you. If you're doing well, I'm doing well. If you're hurting, I'm hurting. That is what it means, number one. Number two, it means as Africans, we must be At the moment we're at now, either embrace democratic principle or define a system that we would embrace. If we choose to embrace democracy, then we must not sell our votes. If we choose to embrace democracy, then we must be people of ideas, not politics of money, not politics of food and hand to mouth. If we engage in politics of hand to mouth, then we can continually not going to change anything. Third, if and only if we want to improve the quality of life for all Africans, we must stop asking what leaders and government could do for us, and let's ask what we can do for our people and our government and our leaders. What can we do for them? Perhaps those of you who claim to be Christians or Muslim, perhaps you can start by praying. Perhaps those who claim to have good ideas, perhaps you can be offering your ideas. Perhaps those who say they can do something, perhaps you can be offering your services or your goods to the government, to the leaders, and to the people. Perhaps the old saying, charity begins at home. So as Africans, if we're going to do any charity at all, then we must start with Africa. So, number 4 or 5, we must stop demonizing and looking down and holding each other down and lift each other up, whether it be woman or man, young or old. And this old saying that say if you are young, you have nothing to offer, or you are old, you are too old to serve, should be done away with. We cannot, as a society, continue to have this mentality of segregating ourselves the way the Europeans and the colonial masters have taught us to do. We must overcome these things. It's embarrassing at this day and age, people across the globe in the Western world are living off the resources that Africa has and living comfortably well as so, while Africans can't even offer drinking water to their own people. It is embarrassing that the resources in Africa is offering food at a cheaper rate than any place in the West, but Africans don't even benefit from it at all. Resources from Africa, giving people in the West affordable, comfortable lifestyle, luxurious lifestyle. And Africans are traveling across the world to enjoy the very resource that has been digged out of their own backyard. It's tragic and sad. Well, I don't know, but sometimes it leaves you wondering whether we remember anything at all. We came from a culture that didn't know hate, didn't know imprisonment, that everybody was respected. And those who disrespected were called to order, were disciplined in a very mature and respectful way. Not slaughtered, and there were barely any robbery or thieves. The West have taught us their bad and irresponsible behavior, and we have embraced it. We have become a society that has no culture. And that cultural significance that used to keep us together in harmony and peace, I don't know if we will ever get it back. Because it doesn't seem like anybody cares about that. The youth are whining and crying like babies in a little corner there that nobody is giving them opportunity. While our ancestors were fighting and dying up against the colonial masters who came and just ravaged the whole continent. The women now don't see men as men. The men don't honor women as women. We have embraced their bad behaviors. We don't cherish each other anymore. We don't go to leaders, to elders in communities to resolve our problem. We are now chanting of executing people, slaughtering people. There are criminals running around. What has that become of us? What have we become? Here we call people, let's come together, let's try to revert what we can revert. People say they would wait and see what is going to come out of what we're doing, and then they will join later on. Who is supposed to do what and you join when? When something is initiated, jump on the wagon, be part of it, make your sacrifices, offer your suggestions, and be part of the change that you are asking, that you are talking about. Just don't talk. Africans, they have taught us, I used to remember in school, whereby we debate each other. They taught us to debate each other. This is all we're doing. You look at the entire Africa, we like to talk and no substance at all.